Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Rachel Klein and I will be your presenter here for the next 20 minutes. Today we're going to be talking about pledges and campaigns in the donations module. The information that I'm going to be covering today is from one of our donations workbooks. It's from the D103 workbook and it's pages 21 through 37. So if you want to follow along, feel free to do that. As always, you can purchase our workbooks out on our website if you'd like. So if you go to churchwindows.com, up at the top under beginning, go to training workbooks, and as you scroll down you can see the different workbooks that are available by module, and then it lists the different topics that that specific workbook's going to cover. And like I said, today we're doing donations 103, which is right here, and we're going to look at pages 21 through 37 talking about pledges and campaigns. All right, let me close this. Now, if you guys have questions during the presentation, I am the only tech in here today because there's not too terribly many of you. But if you have a question, I'm going to wait to address those at the end of the webinar. So you can type it in at any time, but I do close up that question section because if I'm trying to present and read questions, I get myself all flustered. So I have it closed up, but feel free to type it in. Just know that I won't get you an answer until after I finish the presentation. Okay? All right, so I went ahead and opened up donations. There's two places that you can go in the donations module to get to the pledges window. Okay, so right here in the middle, big blue ribbon, you have the pledges, and then up here at the top under accounts and pledges, you have your big blue ribbon up there as well. Both buttons take you to the exact same place, so it doesn't matter how you get there, whether you go up to the top or the middle button here, but simply feel free, click on that big blue ribbon, and then the view and enter pledges window is going to open up for you. Okay? Now, pledges. Pledges are, pledges can be organized by your church, okay? So it's a way for a church to raise money or gather money for a particular thing or particular purpose. Now, as you can see on this screen, we have two tabs. We have the campaign pledges tab, and then we also have the pledges by giver tab. Just to explain what the difference is, the campaign pledges tab is really going to focus on when the church is going to organize some type of pledge drive or pledge campaign. Okay, so this is going to be something like a kitchen renovation or a building fund. My church, we're building a new building right now, so we've been having a multi-year building fund going on for the last 3 years. So that's where you would set up that campaign and then add all the people to it here. So it's anything that's been organized by your church is going to be a campaign. Now, with that being said, we also have the Pledges by Giver tab, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But the Pledges by Giver tab is an option for you to see pledging information on an individual giver basis. So you're able to look up the Klein family and see all their pledging history. Pledges by Giver also gives you an option to enter an individualized pledge. So for example, say I want to just pledge, and I'll show you this in a minute, but say I just want to pledge, I want to make my own. I just want to give $25 a week to flowers. It's not an organized campaign. It's not a pledge drive. It's just something an individual giver wants to do on their own. If that's the case, you would enter that on the Pledges by Giver tab. You wouldn't make a campaign for that. Okay, and I'll show you that in the second half of the presentation here. But let's go back to campaign pledges. I'm at the bottom of page 22 here. I'm going to walk you through how to create a campaign, and then I'm going to point out all the different options of this screen so you can see how the screen functions. So first thing we have to do, so when your church decides they're going to do a pledge drive campaign, once all those pledge start coming back of what people are going to pledge, this is the screen you're going to go to get them entered. Okay, so first thing you have to do is actually create the campaign name. So you're going to create the campaign itself. Once it's created, then you're going to add those pledges into it. So next to the campaign drop box, you have a little down arrow. This is going to show you all of your past campaigns that have been entered. And then you also have the green little plus sign. We're going to go to the green little plus sign. This is our ad, and we are going to create a new campaign. It's going to default with the words new campaign and then the current year that you're in. You can change this name to whatever you want. It's also able to be edited. So if you decide, oh, I don't like that campaign name, I want to change it, you can always do that at a later point using this little pencil button. Okay, but for now, I'm just going to leave it as New Campaign 2019, and I'm going to say OK. Once you create your name, you can see the next section of the screen then unlocks. So the next thing you're going to have to do is specify the account. So for this pledge campaign, what giving account in church windows are people pledging to? Is it a building fund? Is it a general fund? Is it a kitchen renovation fund? You have to tell the program what account that money is going to go to. So we're going to follow the example in the book. We're going to go with general fund. If you want to create a new account, if this is a brand new account, brand new campaign, and you want to make a new account specific to this campaign and it doesn't already exist, you can hit your little green plus sign and that'll allow you to make a new giving account right from this screen. Next thing you have to specify is your start date and your end date. So this is the time frame this campaign is going to be effective. Like I said, it's going to default to the current year. I'm going to go ahead and just leave it as is for today's example. And then you move over here to your amount default and your frequency default. This would be used if, for example, everyone is going to be giving $50 a month. So say you have a preset amount and a preset frequency that everyone who gives to this campaign has to follow. You would fill that in, the amount and the frequency, and then each time you go to add a new giver to the campaign, it's automatically going to calculate the amount and the frequency. Okay. For this example, this campaign, people can pledge however they want. So I'm not going to change anything in my amount or my frequency box. And I'm going to come over here to the right and I'm going to hit my Add Givers button. As soon as I hit my Add Givers button, as you can see, the lower half of the screen is now fully visible. So there's a giver box, a pledge amount, and a pledge frequency. So as those pledge cards come in, this is where you're going to go to put those pledgers into the system. Okay, so top of page 25, we have some examples here. I'm going to go ahead and look for Mr. and Mrs. William Bell. Let's say I got their pledge card back. You can search for them by their giver number, by their name, first or last. Here we go, the Bell family. I'm going to select them. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put in my pledge amount. They are pledging $100 and their frequency is going to be monthly. So as you can see here, we have a lot of different options for how people decide they're going to meet their pledge. Most of these are pretty straightforward. I do want to explain real quick flat. Flat just means they are going to give X amount of dollars however they want, whether they want to give it a lump sum, maybe they're going to give it maybe on Wednesday, maybe on Friday, multiple times a week. Doesn't matter. There's not a set frequency. So I would go with flat. Most people like to go with flat, but if somebody comes up to you and says, no, I'm giving $100 a month, then definitely hit the down arrow and choose the frequency that they selected. Okay. Once you get the information filled in, we're going to come over here to the right and we're going to hit the Add Giver to Campaign button. So then the Bell family is going to pop down below. And as you can see, the program has pre-calculated a couple different things for you. It took your amount per frequency and your frequency and it calculated how many payments they're going to have. So monthly you're going to have 12. And it also calculated what their total pledge is going to be based on the start date and the end date of the campaign. Okay. Now, if you ever need to come in here and make a change, you're not going to make a change to the blue boxes. You are going to come in here and simply click in here and make a change right in the frequency or the amount per frequency columns. Okay. All right, let's do two more just for example's sake. Giver number 79, we want Tom. I'm going to put in his amount, so it looks like he pledged $250 monthly. And I'm going to add him to the campaign. Now keep in mind, you don't have to use your mouse on this screen. You can just keep to your keyboard to make things a little bit faster if you have a bunch to go in. So let's look down here at Bella. I'm just going to do 36. I'm going to hit my tab key. It's over in my pledge amount. Looks like Bella's pledged $25,000. And she's done that semi-annually. So again, I'm hitting my tab key, then my down arrow, and I'm going to semi-annual, and I'm hitting tab, and I'm entering Bella down so she pops below. My cursor's back up in the giver box. I can then continue to enter people as I need to. Okay. There's also a plus sign here. If you need to add a giver on the fly, someone who's not currently in the system, you can definitely hit that plus sign here, and that will open up the add giver screen, and you can add someone into the membership module or the donations module. You have an inactive checkbox. If that box is checked, that means your givers are going to include inactive people. See them listed here in red. If you don't want to see inactive people available while entering donations, simply click to uncheck that box, and then you're no longer going to have those red people available in the list. You also have a sort by giver number box. This functions just the same here as it does on all your other screens in church windows. If it is unchecked, your givers will be listed here in alphabetical order. If you do check it, hit the down arrow, you're then going to have your givers listed in their giver number order if you use numbers. Okay. Now let's move on to bottom of page 25. They're talking about editing or removing campaign pledge information. So let's close out, and I want to reopen this screen. Back into pledges. Now under campaign, if I hit the down arrow, you can see here's my new campaign 2019 that I've been working on. And after I select it, you then have everything you've entered thus far. More pledge cards come in, go back to your campaign, and keep entering your giver pledge amounts and pledge frequencies. Okay? If you ever need to edit the campaign, this little pencil here will do that for you. It'll reopen this, and you can call this whatever you like. Let's call it General Fund 2019 and say OK. Now, if you ever want to delete a campaign, there is a little minus sign here. Simply click that, and you can delete everything that you've entered in on this screen. So be careful with this. If you hit the minus sign, it's going to get rid of the campaign entirely. Okay, so this is going to be permanent. There's not a way to undo this. Okay, so if you remove a campaign by hitting that red minus button, it's going to be gone. Okay. Now, let's talk about copying a campaign. Say you do the same campaign every year, and you want to just take the information that you put in for 2018 and bring all your givers forward for 2019. There is a way to simply do that, so let's talk about that kitchen renovation project. So here is my kitchen renovation 2019 campaign. Started 1/1/2018, it ended 12/31/2018. And then here are my people listed that pledged to this campaign. Now let's say I want to take all these people and I want to move them forward. I want a kitchen renovation 2019 campaign. So I'm going to select my campaign first. Up here in the top right, I'm going to hit copy campaign. That's then going to open up another screen, and now I have to put in my new campaign name. Just going to call it Kitchen Reno, and I'm going to call it 2019. I'm going to verify that my start date and my end date are exactly what I want, which it is, and I'm going to say OK. Now if I look back on this screen, you can see that I have all of the same givers that I had for my Kitchen Reno 2018, my same account, but my start dates now are different. Okay, so at this point, say Carolyn decided to change her pledge amount. If that's the case, I could simply click in here and I could change the amount to what she now wants it to be for 19. Say someone decides they don't want to give to the Kitchen Reno this year. Say Ruth decided it's not in the cards for her to give to Kitchen Reno this year. If that's the case, just follow her line to the right, hit the little minus sign, and it's going to give you a message. It's going to caution you about deleting it, but in this case we want it gone, so I'm going to say yes, and now Ruth is gone from the list. Okay? So that is how you copy a campaign. Let's go ahead and talk about the Pledges by Giver tab. Like I said, if you have questions, type them in. I'm not going to get to them till the end though, but feel free to type them in and I'll see them after. Pledges by Giver tab, very handy. If someone ever calls you and say, hey, what did I pledge back in 2018 to kitchen rental? I'd like to see what that was again. You could simply look for the giver here and it's going to give you all of their pledging history. All right, so we're looking at the Bell family. They have a lot of good data in here from years past. You can see here are all their previous pledges, what their frequency was, what their amount per frequency was. If they've met their pledge, they get little balloons. That's a quick way to see that they've fulfilled their pledge. You also have a line here across the top. This is a line available for you to add a new pledge. Okay, remember, if they want to give as part of a campaign, you need to go back to the campaign pledges tab and add them there. But let's say Bill Bell decides that he wants to give money weekly to flowers. This is not a pledge campaign. This is not a pledge drive that you've done. This is just something unique to Bill Bell. Okay, if that's the case, we're going to enter that here on the Pledges by Giver tab. This top row, like I said, this is your new line item. As you can see, total pledge is 0, total given is 0, amount per frequency is 0. But it allows you to make a new line item here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in flowers for Bill. And I'm going to come over to the right and I'm going to put in his amount per frequency. Let's say he wants to give $50 and he wants to give it weekly. I'm going to go ahead and enter that information in. And as you can see now, his total pledge is going to be $2,600. He's going to make that payment 52 times. And this is his new pledge that is just unique to him. No one else is going to have this pledge, okay? So that is one of the nice flexible pieces in the pledging area, is that you can do your campaigns, but then you can also have pledges that are unique to just one person or one family. There's also some filtering options over here as well. If you just want to see his current pledges, you can uncheck past and future and just see those. If you just want to see his past pledge, same thing. You can use these different filter options to kind of help you focus in or look for what specific thing that you're looking for. Okay? So let's move on here. I'm going to jump to page 35. This talks about deleting existing information. So let's say, I know we talked about it a little bit with Ruth, but let's say someone is moving away. Someone leaves your church for whatever reason. If you need to go in and make an adjustment to their pledge, they aren't going to fulfill their pledge as they originally said, you can come into this screen and you can make an adjustment to an end date. Okay, so let's say, for example, Tom decides he's moving away and we need to come in here and we need to adjust his end date because he's not going to fulfill this $250 a month pledge. Okay, so what we would do is we could come in here. We'll put in 0801, we'll tab through it, and as you can see, he still has his pledge, but because the end date changed, now his total pledge amount changed and his total number due has adjusted. Okay? Now you do have the option to delete the pledge as well. You have this remove option, but keep in mind if you do that, it's getting rid of the pledge completely. For some instances that might be the case, it just needs gone. But if someone has been giving faithfully and you want to keep that information as part of their campaign, then you can simply come in here and adjust the end date to something different. All right. Keep in mind, if you adjust the end date, it still has to be between your start date and your end date. Someone could not have an end date past the end date of the campaign. Okay. So that's how you do that. And last thing I need to show you, bottom of page 36. There is this Find Pledges button. This would be used if you are sure you entered a pledge for someone, but they're not showing up as part of the campaign. Okay, so say something accidentally got entered on the pledges by giver tab, but it really needs to be amongst the other pledges for the campaign. You can hit this Find Pledges button, and the program is going to go out and it's going to look to see if anyone else has a campaign. Oops. Sorry about that. Let me cancel this. It's going to go out and it's going to look to see if anyone else has a pledge that meets the account and the start date and end date of the campaign. So it's a good way to go out and see if there's any other gifts out there that need linked up to the campaign. If it finds them, it'll ask you if you want to bring them over. And if it doesn't, it's going to just tell you there are no matching pledges that are disconnected from the campaign. And then you move on. All right. Whew. All right, we're right at 120. That covers everything I needed to show you from the workbook.